Good evening. Today's Tuesday, July 24th. This is the opening of the Hanson Board of Selectmen meeting. This meeting is being taped by Whitman Hanson Community Access. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Hanson. Here are this week's announcement. The Recreation Commission is sponsoring a blood drive at Camp Kiwanee Lodge on August 22nd from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. The town clerk would like to remind dog owners that it is time to license your dogs. All dogs must be licensed by September 30th. The Water Department has announced a leak detection company, Water and Waste Pipe Testing, Inc., and will be in town for the next few weeks for testing for water leaks. All their vehicles are clearly marked. Volunteers are needed on the following committees: the 200th anniversary, capital improvement, community preservation, disabilities, economic development, elder affairs, energy, finance, Memorial Day Patriot observance, Memorial Field trustee, recreation committee, school repair, zoning board alternate. Applications for appointment and information on the committees are available on the town website. And then, absentee ballots are now available at the town clerk's office for the state primary being held on Tuesday, September 4th. Any registered voter who are unable to attend in person on election day due to absent from town, physical disability, religious belief may obtain an absentee ballot. Voters may absentee vote in person at the town clerk's office or by mail. Applications for absentee ballots will be accepted at the town clerk's office until 5 p.m. Friday, August 31st. For more information, call the town clerk's office at 781-293-2772. And upcoming meetings, the 200th Anniversary Committee is on Thursday, July 26th at 7 p.m. The next Selectmen's meeting will be on Tuesday, August 14th at 7 p.m.
Thanks, Matt. Is Kevin Perkins here? How about Kathy Gernhardt? No? Okay. So we're going to open up new business. We're going to get an update from the Hanson Community Cable Access. Eric, come on up.
Everyone. So we just kind of came in to do an update on what we've been up to. We try to do this a few times a year, and so I thought I'd just come in and do that. There are a few new faces on this board since the last time I gave this update, but at the same time, I think all of those of you have been through our studio as well. So you've seen some of the things that I'll talk about, but also for the folks at home watching on TV, talk a little bit about what we got going on there. So I am the executive director from Whitman Hanson Community Access. I've been there for about 19 months now. So just about a year and a half, and during that time we've done a whole bunch of projects, both physical and kind of operational and organizational. And I got to say that we're in a really great place right now. I was in here about a year ago and we were talking about some of our backed reporting that we needed to take care of, and I'm very happy to say that for about a year now that's been all set, and we've added another year onto that, having been taken care of with all of our filing to the state and the federal agencies that we report to, all taken care of for another year. So in about 10 months, we'll start that process again. Let's see here. We did a big inventory, as we do every year. We went in, but this year we actually went in and tried to take out some of the equipment that's been piling up, old equipment, furniture, and cables. Go figure, at a cable place. And we kind of sold what we could, we recycled what we could, we disposed of the rest. So anything that we did dispose of was recorded to our inventory as disposed of. It was fully depreciated, and we've got a little bit more room to move around and to bring in some new equipment into that space. We've also put in new windows into our facility, which helps with heating bill and the sound properties there. We've been working to install an edit lab. We actually moved kind of the brain of our operations that schedules our channels into another portion of the building, and did all the appointments to make sure that that had all the infrastructure it needed to work in a reliable and good temperature control and all that. And then we've installed into that space an editing lab. So what folks have historically been able to do is come in and take out a camera and go and shoot something, but that was sort of where it stopped. Now they can actually come in and shoot that something. They could then come in and edit it. If they wanted to play with animation and not even involve a camera or something like that, those spaces will be available for that. So we're kind of growing in this new direction to allow further service for the folks that come in and use our services. At the same time, that also allows space for us to bring interns in and for, continuing education opportunities for those folks. But we also, because of that, will be able to better serve the communities by having essentially additional manpower to go and cover more events and things like that. So we're going to continue to kind of work in those directions and be doing other facility, projects to support that. We've also done some work in our truck. Mostly it's aesthetic. You may have seen the truck now. It's very well branded, so you know what you're watching and you know where to watch us. We're trying to get that information out so that we make sure that people are as engaged as possible in the content that we're creating, which is all about their communities. But as I said, one of the most exciting upgrades that we did is our new Tightrope media server, which has allowed us to not only have our content on our channels, but we can make that look a lot nicer, look a lot cleaner, be easier to find, easier to watch. And it also now has us putting that content on the web, both for on-demand viewing later, but also as a web stream. I'm not sure that we've 100% formally launched that stream full-time. So that's to say, I don't know if this is streaming right now, but kind of coming in 2019, maybe in September, we're going to, with some regularity, make sure that in both towns that there's a live web stream of our best of content, but also of these meetings and things like that. So that's kind of one of the things that's coming there. Let's see, check my notes here where I'm heading next. We've redesigned our website and continue to keep redesigning our website, making other sections of that website, again, further serve the community and help plug them into the opportunities that we have for folks to get involved with us, but also to find the content that they might be looking for that we've generated. And then going ahead, we've got a lot of equipment that we do need to update. It's a quickly changing technology. And so we're continuing to work with that, continuing to keep our equipment up to date. We've got to do some work in the studios, update our lighting, and we're doing a lot of, we're thinking green, and we're trying to reduce kind of our carbon footprint on some of that. But also the cost of maintaining some of this older equipment, some of this incandescent lighting, for example, is a challenge at times. So we're looking at projects like that. We'll be upgrading our control room at some point to high definition, because frankly, that's at this point all you can buy. You can't buy standard definition, even though I know you're probably aware that as you watch our content, it's still on standard definition. And that's a problem that we're facing just from what the cable providers give us, which is actually a fight we're fighting on the state and federal level to try and change that. We want to make sure that we're relevant and not 800 channels away from the content folks are watching other places. So that's pretty much kind of the update of what we've been up to. I'm happy to take any questions, but it's been an exciting year and a half for me.
Great.
It's extremely impressive, Eric.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I actually have one question.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that there's a video camera that the public can come in, borrow
Several, yep.
for free,
Yep.
and then edit it at the station.
Yeah.
And then are they obligated to share what they did on your channel, or is it?
The way that, because we're funded through the dollars that folks pay to Comcast, the goal is that the equipment that is paid for by that money then finds its way, that content finds its way to the channel. So we try to incorporate that in some way. There's certain things that, as we say, hit the cutting room floor, and we understand that. It's not that everything has to end up on the channel, but we'd like something to come onto the channel for the people in the community to enjoy and to take in, as well as the person who's maybe honing that skill that they want to work on or things like that. And it's not just that they can take out a camera, they can also come in and use our studio, and all of our facilities are all available. So we're a lot like a library in that way, where everything that we have can be checked out and used by a qualified individual.
And I've used the equipment and I've used the studio for our Hanson Business Network series that we did. And Eric and the staff were super helpful. Like, they'll help you figure out how to edit, they'll help you figure out camera angles, teach you how to use the camera. They don't just hand you the camera and send you on your way. If you're comfortable with that, then you can do that. But they're very supportive, and I would encourage people, if you've got some kind of a passion or something that you want to share with people, to do it, because it's free.
Well, it's a great outreach opportunity for folks. In fact, as you were reading the notices, I think they're all on our bulletin board system. And that's another thing. If you're a part of a nonprofit or another group in town, you can get that word out about the events. I know just recently we did something with Green Hanson, I think. Was that what it was, Arlene? We did about composting. So it's a great way to get a message, whether it's about an upcoming event or an initiative that you're in favor of or something like that. It's a great way. We're here to help and get that message out.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Eric.
Very
it.
welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, next up, new business, regional dispatch discussion. So over the past 6 or 8 months, we've been having an ongoing discussion about possibly switching to a different product that we have now as far as 911 goes and dispatch. So today we have Captain Rob Reardon, and Rob, come on up. Rob's gonna just kind of give us a brief overview of his program that they're running over there.
I'll give you some handouts.
Okay.
Oh, thanks.
I'm
Mike
sorry.
Mahoney, by the way.
Mike
Director of the
Westbloss.
Regional Center.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Mike, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay. Jump in and
Good to
help
see you.
us if
Yep.
needed.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you very much. So as you said, this discussion kind of started 6, 8, 10 months ago. We have in that time made some changes at the Rock, made some improvements, and we're eager to kind of re-stir the discussion. If you look at the packet that we've just handed out in front of you, it's just sort of a brief, very brief overview of what the Rock has to offer. And if you don't know, the ROC stands for Regional Old Colony Communications Center. Just for an agenda, we have ROC facts, a quick virtual tour, some of the benefits of regionalization, our future plans, and then any questions you may have. As we move through, the ROC was established in 2013, formerly known as the DREC, or the Duxbury Regional Emergency Communications Center. We currently serve the towns of Duxbury, Plimpton, Rochester, and Halifax. We handle all emergency 911 and business telephone traffic for all police, fire, and EMS calls for service. We handle communications for animal control, the DPW, and other municipal services as well. The ROC was the first regional 911 center to deploy next generation 911. If you're not familiar with that, up until about 2 years ago, the 911 system was rather antiquated. It now is all network-based, fiber optic-based, has a new mapping software that interfaces with MassGIS, as well as a sort of Google Maps picture that you're probably all familiar with. It also, because of the interface with GIS, it overlays house numbers and addresses right on the satellite picture. Provides tremendous accuracy for dispatch. We were the first center, other than the city of Boston and the islands, Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, to take cellular calls direct. So what that means, if you're not familiar with it, if you call 911 from a cell phone in the town of Hanson now, it goes to the state police. The state police ask you where you are, what your emergency is, determine, okay, you're in Hanson, they transfer it to the Hanson police station. In the time where seconds count, that takes several of them. In our facility, if you call 911 and hit a tower anywhere in any of the jurisdictions we serve, it rings in our room immediately. No transfer, no nothing, to the people who are actually sending the help. Total population we serve currently with the 4 towns is 30,629, and we cover 105.3 square miles, which includes the Duxbury Harbor. You see the ROC chain of command there? That's me in the dead center. Again, I'm Mike Mahoney. I'm the director of the ROC. Captain Reardon, prior to my appointment as director, was the dispatch manager. Above the two of us is Kevin Nord, the chief of the fire department. And sort of to my right are all of the chiefs of the departments we serve. And beneath me, I have lead dispatchers, dispatch supervisors, and beneath them, frontline dispatch staff. As we move into sort of the virtual tour, sorry, we didn't know if you would have projector availability or anything, so we only brought a few copies here, but we can share them with you. You'll notice there's a fire communications desk, a lead dispatcher desk, and a police communications desk. One striking thing at that bottom photo kind of grabs everyone's attention is just the sheer amount of technology we have in the room. At any given time, there's close to 100 monitors in the room. When you add up each individual dispatch console plus all the monitors we have on the wall. My office, again, just showing you the amount of tech we have at our disposal. And everything you see in these pictures, 100%, every TV screen, computer, mouse, keyboard, telephone, came at no cost to any of our citizens. It's all funded by the state 911 department. Now, one could argue that we all paid for it because there's a charge on your cell phone bill that's where the money comes from. To get into some of the benefits of regionalization, as I said, grant funding is a huge part of this. State 911 department is sort of the funding source for all dispatch centers, and they've established tiers for grant funding. And as of right now, Regional Emergency Communications Center, who take 911 direct and dispatch police, fire, and EMS, are their #1 priority. So we meet those criteria. We are priority 1 for funding. That affords us an opportunity to develop for development grant funding, which non-regional centers do not have. Non-regional centers are only entitled to support and incentive grant funding and training grant funding. We have another whole bucket called development grant funding. This helps to fund all that technology I spoke of, any construction, staffing, my salary. What that means for Hanson is the cost of transition to the Rock could, should, and probably would be subsidized by state 911. Any wish list items you have, the police department has, fire department has, the town has, we can roll into future development grant requests. This past year, we have a request pending, which we'll get to, that will give you kind of a taste of what kind of money we're talking about. We requested right in the ballpark of $4 million this year. Next kind of benefit I have is just the staffing level. You all know I'm in no way taking shots at Hanson's operation. They do a marvelous job, but they have one person on duty at a time. We have 3 to 5 or more at any given time on duty. Round the clock, I have a lead dispatcher and 2 dispatchers working beneath him. From noon to 8, since the addition of Rochester, I add a 4th who acts as a call taker. Their sole responsibility is to answer the phone, which frees up the other 3 people to handle all the radio traffic. Now, you take a minute to think about that. If you're a single person in that room, the 911 phone rings, you only have 1 mouth and 2 hands. You have to talk to the caller, enter all the information into a computer, send the police department, send the fire department, give emergency medical dispatch instructions. That's an awful lot for one person to take on. Our operation has enough people that one person talks to the caller, one person sends the police department, one person sends the fire department, and we still have an extra there for overflow. Just, it's a much more fluid system. More gets done in a quicker time. What that does is our average time from the time the phone rings to the time someone rolls out of one of the stations, be it police or fire, is 10 seconds. That's fast. That's substantially below the national average. As far as staffing by regionalizing, the town of Hanson would eliminate the need for, or at least reduce the need for payroll, benefits, training requirements, OPEB, etc. We determine our staffing level based on call volume and population served. So with each town that we've added staff, we've added positions. By doing that, we attract the best and brightest in the dispatch community, because we have far more opportunity for advancement than other centers. We also have a 100% track record of any community that has joined us. We offer the opportunity to their dispatchers to apply for a position. And so far, we have a 100% acceptance rate. Every dispatcher from another town that's applied to our place, we have hired them full-time. And technology, as I said, we have development grants. Last year, we got $1.62 million in grant funding. We've extended radio towers. We've upgraded all of our radio equipment. In fact, it's really not even radio equipment anymore. Everything is computer-based. It's over microwave, fiber optic backup. I don't want to bore you with some of the technological details, but essentially nothing is ever 100% guaranteed, but we have so many redundancies built in and have extended our towers and our antennas and our fiber optic reach and microwave reach that we can talk to pretty much anyone, anywhere, anytime. Whether it's storms, whatever, we're not going to lose our connectivity. As far as the future, if I back up a little bit, I skipped a few things. Our CAD system, which stands for Computer-Aided Dispatch, we use the same system that Hanson uses currently. What that does is it makes for a seamless transition to move any of Hanson's data onto our servers. It's a process, but it's a process I've now done 4 times and have become quite adept at. It can be done quickly, and no historical data is lost. We maintain it all, we move it all, and that's another piece that the town of Hanson no longer has to maintain. Our camera systems. Right now we have access to every police station, every fire station we serve. We also monitor schools in Duxbury. Rochester has just granted us access to their schools, and Plimpton will be granting us access to the Dennett School. So if, God forbid, in the instance of a school shooting, we can, at the push of a button, see what's happening, who's in there, where they are, and track an incident in the school system. For future plans, with the addition of Halifax and Rochester, the Rock has essentially outgrown its square footage. We have a development grant application pending right now, as I said, for $4 million. That'll allow us to build a new dispatch center on the current footprint. Basically, 911 will not pay for new construction, so it's a renovation. Basically, what we're going to do is take the second floor off and build a new second floor, cantilever it out, and increase the square footage up to a 35 by 35 foot dispatch center. It'll add restrooms, locker rooms, break facilities, full kitchen for the staff, a state-of-the-art training center, state-of-the-art video and audio surveillance systems for all the departments we serve, schools if they so choose, town buildings if they so choose, if the town wants it to be monitored. As you move forward, you can see the floor plan, the architectural drawing. As I said, that to the right there is the second floor. That's a new addition. Basically, that cantilevers out 10 feet on all 4 sides of our current footprint. The dispatch floor, sort of the empty square box there, is a 35 by 35 foot space. And down beneath is an artist's rendering of what the center will look like upon completion. We're doing this in stages. You turn the page. That's an 11 console layout that allows us to staff 11 or more dispatchers at a time. If you notice, the middle there is kind of empty. As we move forward, the next page is a 15 console layout. These consoles are designed to be added to. The reason we did that is based on need and just fiscal responsibility. We'll do it step by step. We'll go up to 11. All these consoles are expensive. Again, it's grant funded, but we don't need 15 right out of the gate, to be quite honest. And should the town of Hanson join, at that point, we'd bring in the fourth to leave room for storm overflow, et cetera.
So the maximum would be 15?
15 consoles, yeah. That's our max in that footprint. So that's kind of the very broad overview of who we are and what we do. I'm sure Captain Reardon has some things he'd like to add, and then we'll entertain any questions.
Sure. I was lucky enough to be the one who started this, to build a rock. And from an end user point, I saw where it came from and where it's going to. We were very similar to Hanson when we started because we had that one dispatcher working the desk. And they become overwhelmed. Like Mike said, what we have that's different than the towns that have one dispatcher, not that they're doing a bad job in any way, but they don't have the resources that we have. When your cell phone, when you call 911 from a cell phone, it comes right to us. We have multiple people who pick up the phone so people can get the call out quickly. One of the other big differences of a regional center like ours is we don't have that foot traffic, so they don't see the public, the dispatcher. So when a dispatcher, say in another town, is there and they're dealing with a 911 call and they're giving EMD advice of how to do CPR, at the same time while they're trying to dispatch police and fire, and you have someone from the public who's knocking on the door saying, hello, I'm trying to get a gun permit, or I'm trying to get this, can you tell me where this street is? They don't know what this dispatcher's doing. That's one of the big differences we have in our center. They don't deal with the public. It's completely separate. So they're dealing with emergencies. That's what their job is. Public safety dispatcher is profession, and there's a lot of responsibility on them. So we take them out of that realm. And that's one of the big differences of our center. But I'd be welcome to answer any questions you have. I would encourage you, I know a couple of you have been over for tours. Seeing it is, it's proof. Like you can see how it works. You can be there when we take 911 calls. You can see how quick this stuff goes out the door. The national standard is 90 seconds for a call to be dispatched. Like Mike said, within 10 seconds, these calls are going out the door, one after the other. And that's what we expect over there. And seconds really do matter. But again, I open it up if anyone has questions or.
I know I did have an opportunity to tour, and I was wildly impressed, and I'm sure I'll be even more impressed when you guys do the build out, and hopefully the new guys can get an opportunity because it's quite enlightening. I'm wondering, when we were visiting, one of the things I was concerned about was making sure that all of the towns that were part of this were going to have an equal voice. And there was some reorganization of the way that sort of governance was going to happen. And can you speak to where that is? I think you guys were working with the state, and I don't really know where that went.
Right.
So as it stands now, we are under the umbrella of the town of Duxbury. The way it works is that communities that are part of the ROC pay an assessment to the town of Duxbury. And then I myself work with the chiefs of the 8 departments, and everybody has an equal voice. The goal here in the long run, the Commonwealth has approved legislation which allows regional public safety services to adopt a district form of governance. Everyone hears district and associates it with the school system, especially here. It's very different. Basically what it ends up being is you have a board of directors, which would consist of someone from a board of selectmen or Mr. McHugh or his counterpart from each town, and myself, or a director to be chosen later if that were the case. And then there's an operations board, which consists of all the chiefs of the police and fire departments. The operations board makes all the decisions as far as day-to-day operations for public safety. Any financial or other obligations are determined by that board of directors, and it is a one town, one vote.
So how long before you would anticipate would be on that model? Because that's a concern for me. I know it's been working out fine. I'm sure the town of Duxbury's got the best of intentions and all of that. But I want to have a completely equal say at the table. And so what's your ETA on that?
I would hazard, and I shouldn't say guess, but a very educated guess would be that it would be simultaneous with the construction of the new building.
Okay. All right. Good. That's great. And what other pending towns do you have? I know there was, are you allowed to speak about that? I don't know.
To a point, some of it is public record because there are written agreements. We have several that sort of dip their toe in the water on any given day. They're interested this week, not interested that week. As far as signed, executed intermunicipal agreements, the only ones are with the town of Hanson and the town of Plymouth.
Okay, so Plymouth is in the mix. Okay. And at what point would you anticipate, what's your total capacity in terms of population, where you're gonna say, you know what, for the build-out we're doing with 15 people, the maximum population we can handle is?
With 15 consoles in the new building, our estimate is 100,000 people.
Okay. And what will Plymouth, if Plymouth and Hanson both joined, what would that bring you up to?
About 99 and change.
Okay, okay. All right.
Mike, I'm sorry. Mike, when is the new construction supposed to start?
So like it says there in the thing, it's a pending development grant application, I guess you would call it. It's the way the Commonwealth works. We had to file in April. They're supposed to make announcements July 1st, start of the fiscal year. Past practice has been that they tend to make their announcements somewhere around mid-September. So once we hear, we are ready to go. The architectural studies have already been done. We have a bidding process sort of lined up. And as soon as they say, yes, you're getting the money, we will start the bidding process. Ideally, we'd like to have shovels in the ground somewhere around October.
Just to talk about that a little bit, our grant we got last year, 1.7 million, it was the biggest in the state, and they gave us money for design architectural fees, so all that's already ongoing. And I actually spoke to the architect about a week ago, he said it will all be ready for when the award comes up.
So it would be a little strange for them to fund the design study, et cetera, and not follow through with
Right.
that.
So-
One could argue that if
Yeah.
you laid out the money to figure out how to build it, you better build
Yeah.
it.
And like Mike said, they prioritize this by towns that are joining, successful operations, and we have that. We're priority one. Towns have been joining, and they know we're not going any bigger until we get that space, so I think we have a very good chance.
So if you started construction in September, how long would you figure it would take to build that building?
So the architect says 8 months.
8 months.
Because he said it isn't really a big thing, but one of the big things is technology. That's a big part of it, is the technology behind it. So to be safe, I'm thinking 18 months, but you never know, it could be a little bit longer. So we'll see how things go. But he said 8 months.
And then how long does the process take once we make a decision on whether or not we're gonna move forward?
Sure, so experience with the other towns, Plimpton, Rochester, Halifax, there's a lot of planning. Because we want to make sure that your departments, if they decided to go, are outfitted correctly. Radios, repeaters, camera systems. For example, Plimpton, they had an antiquated phone system, so we replaced their phone system. Rochester had antiquated phones. They needed alarms in their police station because they were going dark. They needed camera systems. So when Rochester came in, we got them $500,000 worth of stuff that was able to be used towards police, fire, and to be able to connect to our systems. So those are things that we have to plan. If you're looking to do this, it takes a while to do it the right way. So you want to get moving on that stuff.
And my opinion is that if and when they approve the building and construction starts, we'll be into a grant cycle. That following April, so if we start in September, October, that following April is when we would file the next development grant. Just because the facility's not there, I mean, if they're hammering nails, it's coming, it will get done.
Right.
It would behoove everyone, I think, that if you chose to go that way, that we're having discussions as soon as construction starts, so that come April, we can file that grant. Because it may take
Right.
the 18 months to build the building, but at least we've filed that development grant to start getting the town of Hanson its radio systems, its mobile data terminals, which are computers in the cruisers, whatever the town decides it may need or want. That way, once that grant funding comes out, we can start the process of the transition, which would bring us to, say, the following September.
And one other big piece of the puzzle is the funding. Is this right or not? Besides whether the product is good, is this the right choice for Hanson? And I'll just tell you, Rochester, without giving numbers away, they cut their bill by probably almost 2/3 out to come to us. So they got a better service, they're not paying benefits anymore, the state kicked in quite a bit to pay every year for them, and the dollar figure in the end is probably 1/3 of their budget prior to coming to us.
Chairman,
Yes, good.
I have a question. So we heard a lot why regional dispatch is beneficial. What are some pitfalls? What are some cons to regional dispatch?
I think I can answer this if you like. One of the things you have to look at is your police station and your staffing. That's something that has to be decided. You know, that's something that's come up on every single town. You know, whether they're going to have a dark station or not. There's technology available. I'll give you for an example, Rochester. Rochester looked at that, whether it was right or not to leave their station not staffed at night. So they actually did a study of how many people walked in there at night. It was very few. So they elected that they were going to keep a dispatcher on during the day to do clerical work. At night, they go dark. So what happens at night is somebody walks into that station and they can just pick up the phone and they talk to a dispatcher, one of our dispatchers. If they're in trouble, there's a red button they hit in that lobby. It locks that lobby down and we can get help to them. So it's like a safe room.
I may be mistaken, but I thought Chief Mix told us at one of our meetings, that is not the case in Hanson. We actually do get, I was a little surprised, to be honest with you, with how many people. Am I speaking out of turn, Chief Mix?
Yeah, no, that's something we're
Yeah.
looking to do is go
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
But
So that's-
Understood.
That's a conversation for.
But
Yeah.
as Rob said, that is one of the
That is a
pitfalls.
consideration.
That is one that certainly
Yep.
needs to be thought out.
And then I think also, Matt, one of the things, because we have discussed this as a board prior to you coming aboard, one of the other things would be, you're looking at what is going to happen to the folks that are currently in that job.
Right.
You know, because those are town employees and, people that are committed, to us. And how do we take care of that and do the right thing by them and do the right thing by the town? So we've got that balancing act.
Well, like Mike said, 100% of employees from other towns who have applied to a dispatch position have all been hired full-time. 100%. So,
2 of them are now supervisors.
so
All of
the
them.
one thing I will tell you is we run a very intensive interview. And like we've told Rochester and everywhere else we go, probably very similar to your town, but we do Cory checks, we do psych checks, we do the whole gamut, drug tests. I mean, they have to have this, obviously, to be looking at the information, looking at the police. And on top of that, we do an assessment center, because we have to make sure that the dispatchers we're hiring are able to do the job. So we run a very rigorous interview, but again, 100% of the people who applied. And why wouldn't we want to take employees that know this town and have worked in this dispatch center and know the officers and know the firefighters? Makes for a much easier transition.
I think one of the other things that we hear is people get nervous that, you've got people in Hanson that know all the little nicknames for places like such and such a corner, or it's, like the little Hanson terminologies, and would the new guys know that? And then some of the other things we have to think about is the dispatchers currently perform other duties at the station, so we need to think about who would perform those duties if we don't have the dispatchers there anymore. I mean, those are just like off the top of my head, but
So that's
If
actually
I can
a big
speak to
concern.
one of those concerns is the local knowledge. That comes up everywhere we go. Town of Hanson's actually spoiled. The director of the regional center lived in town for 20 years. I grew up here. I know this town like the back of my hand. We currently employ 12, 15, 20-year veteran Hanson dispatcher, works for us full-time.
And if I can speak on that, coming from Duxbury Fire, I can't tell you the last dispatcher I've hired that lives in Duxbury or knows any street in Duxbury. That's where we rely on technology. How many of these dispatchers are we hiring from our own towns, actually? So I remember when we did Rochester, the big thing was, do you know where Witch's Rock is? I've never heard of Witch's Rock, but when you call on your cell phone, I'm gonna get your location based on geospatial routing, and I'm gonna use that technology to send a cruiser or an ambulance or whoever you need. I might not know where Mary Smith lives, but I'm gonna tell by the phone call you make where you are, I'm gonna get you help. That's what we rely on today, is technology.
Matt, your question?
Yeah, so I have another question. So right now, from what I understand is, if we decide to join regional dispatch, the cost of joining, there's like a membership fee, and that's going to be paid by the Commonwealth. or 911 fees. I should
So it's
say.
offset.
It's subsidized. Basically, an
Subsidized.
assessment is determined used on a very lengthy mathematical formula that involves population served, call volume, and dispatch activity. And based on that, we determine how much additional staff we will need. From the additional staff, we carry that out to come up with our operating budget. And then we divide based on, again, a formula of population and call volume to determine what percentage of the total operating budget the town of Hanson would be responsible for. Once we have that number, we then go to State 901 and say, okay, Hanson's interested, they'd like to join the regional center. Up until now, you have received what's called support and incentive grant funding from State 901. It's probably somewhere in the sub $20,000 range. I don't know the figure, but typically, small community with single dispatch is about $20,000. And we present that the assessment is X. What can the state provide to offset that? For every town we've taken on so far, it's been roughly a 50-50 split, give or take a few dollars. But that carries out when you extrapolate it to a 2/3 or more savings for the town of Rochester, 70 to 80% savings for the town of Halifax, and so on.
And then what happens if the subsidy money disappears?
Exactly.
It never has gone down, ever, in the
Well,
history of...
If it does go down.
So it's, if you, as I said, I made a joke earlier. Every person, if you look on your cellular phone bill, there's a line item there that says 911 surcharge. That dollar that every one of us pay for however many cell phones we have goes into this bucket. It is earmarked, legislated for solely the purpose of funding 911 centers. And I could be dead wrong, but I don't think we're going to stop using cell phones in the next 100
We're just a
years.
little jaded because we're a regional school district and they do change the rules on you on regionalization. So we're a little jaded as a group.
So the one thing I'll bring up is, I'll use the last town of Rochester. If that money dried up, the town of Rochester would have to pay it. If the town of Rochester paid that, it would still be way less than their actual budget prior to coming to us, much less. Yes, sir.
Rob, if Hanson were to join, it says that you guys have 3 to 5 dispatchers on.
Correct.
Would another dispatcher be added on automatically?
Pretty much, absolutely, yeah.
And second half of that question was, if we did do the schools, I think, Mike, I forgot which school you said.
So currently I have all of Duxbury's. I have just been granted access to the old colony down in Rochester.
Okay.
We haven't actually hooked it up yet, but we have, because we want to run fiber connection, it just works better.
Right.
And the Dennett School in Plimpton, they're putting in a camera
And
system.
then is that an extra charge?
No. All this stuff is included. This isn't, we don't nickel and dime, we're not gonna charge you extra because we're dispatching your DPW. This stuff is expected. This is what a dispatch center should do. So, like I said, or Mike said, part of this new center that we're building is a pretty impressive video wall, because this is stuff we're relying on. If we get dispatched to the school, it's not just the police, it's the fire department. Is there any smoke there? Are people running out of the building? You get a burglary alarm, are people running out of the building? So they can quickly look up and get an idea, like, nothing's going on, it's all quiet. I think our main school, we have 185 cameras, so it's pretty quick that they can get a scan of what's going on. And those resources are needed.
We can. Anybody else have any more questions? Do you guys, Fire Chief, Police Chief, do you want to add anything?
Just that, just keep in mind, and I mean, I wasn't prepared to really discuss too much tonight, because I thought it was their show tonight. Keep in mind, though, I'm very familiar with every one of the towns that are involved with this. They're very happy with the service. My issue becomes, what's the positives and negatives for Hanson? And I get the savings that Rochester had. We're not going to see them. I get the savings that Halifax had. We're not going to see them. I have, on average, we did a study, we did a count. It was 280 people a month walking in the station. And it's not, everybody's not coming in for a pistol permit. So I'm just not comfortable letting the place go dark. Is there much less after midnight, between midnight and 8 a.m.? Yeah, there is. but you know as well as I do, somebody walking into a police station between midnight and 8 a.m. usually isn't just looking for directions, there's a problem. So, you know, Duxbury's a big town, their police station's staffed, it's right behind you guys. I just can't see being on Route 27 going dark. And in that case, we either have to have cops on the desk, or we have to have civilian clerks, which would be the model that Norwell did when they went regional. So you know, my only thing is don't expect to save any money in this. And infrastructure-wise, we've been doing a pretty good job keeping up with the radio systems. I just brought in the fiber. We're not ready for the cameras from the schools just yet. But on the flip side, we don't really have a technology guy that can help us do that right at the moment. So, you know, it's getting there. And with the fiber coming in where I shouldn't go down anymore, you know, we're going to be running the same system as you. The radio system I'm putting in, the upgrades, I've already talked to the vendor that's going to do it. We can tie into you. I'm going to tie into you anyways.
Right.
Regardless. So, I mean, there's a lot of pieces and parts that, you know, Rochester didn't have. All their stuff was antiquated. Plimpton, you know, they're lucky that they had a can and a string for a phone system. I mean, they haven't had anybody in a police station in probably 20 years or ever. So there is some big differences that we're really going to look at hard. But again, I know all the towns, no one has any problems with their service. Any bumps in the road I've heard, I've looked at and said, they were bumps in the road, I get it. They were corrected once they came up. But like I said, just keep in mind, they don't expect us to save money. And the one other thing is 911 cell calls. A year ago, I sent a letter to 911 for the study to be done, for us to receive them. They had an issue, they kind of put it all on hold. My understanding is they had an issue with the vendor for the enhanced 911, so they put everybody on hold. They've started releasing that, so some of the smaller towns are starting to take it on. I got a letter from them last week saying they're looking at our data to see what else taking it on. So as that comes up too, we'll look at call volume and see if it's something we can handle. I don't see why it isn't, because we end up with the 911 call anyways. It's just stop the land and give it directly to us. So those are some things to just keep in mind. Obviously, if we decide to go, we got to sit with 911 again and discuss what they're willing to give us.
Yeah.
I don't think that negotiation was finished.
No.
When we left.
And Kenny,
and
this
that's where
isn't a
you would-
foregone conclusion. They're just, these gentlemen just presenting it to us, we're just discussing it.
Right, but I'd like
Nothing
to
has been
put some
decided.
type of deadline, whether it's the end of September or something, to make a decision.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, we have to address Chief Mix's concerns,
Yes.
you know. For me, you know, saving money wouldn't be necessarily the reason why I would go down this avenue. It would be just a better product from what I saw. That just for me. You know, the saving money, yeah, it'd be nice to save money, but that wouldn't be my number one goal. So I think we ought to just set, you know, we need to have another informational,
Yep.
we have the public coming in and, you know, asking questions. We need to get Mike's numbers and find out what's it gonna cost to put civilians at the, you know, at the window all the time to look at it and see if it makes sense. But I don't wanna keep kicking this can down the road and,
No.
you know, in another 6 or 8 months, and then they get the building going, and then another town says, oh, nice new building, they jump in, and then it's closed up. So whether it's go or not, I think, you know, we need to make a decision within the next 3 months, let's say. You know.
Diane, but just one thing, if we don't have any more questions, I just want to talk real quick about cell phones, because that's one of our biggest selling points in the people power. I won't say manpower anymore. But cell phones it's a different animal. 72% was the number they gave us last year. 72% of 911 calls are coming in by cell phone. When we took cell phones, we have 4 people on during our peak period. It's a tremendous undertaking. I remember our first day we took cell phone calls. We took an accident in Halifax, we took 9 cell phone calls. One person can't do that job. We had an accident, fire up on the highway. Probably 2 months ago, we took 58 911 calls in 10 minutes. The people power it takes to answer cell phone calls can't be accomplished by one person. The way it works now is, and it's the way it used to work for us, is if the state police, they take a call for you on Ponce Street for the accident, they send you one through, all the other ones, unless it's new information, they say someone's on the way, someone's on the way, so they're not funneling. So that's something to think about. I'm not trying to discount, but you're looking to take cell phone calls, probably gonna need some more people monitoring this person, because we see it, whether it's Rochester, Duxbury on the highway, Plumpton or Halifax, the calls come in like crazy, everybody has a cell phone, and as they say, until they see red lights or blue lights at the call, they don't know that we have the information.
We had one school bus drove by, minor fender bender. Every single kid on that school bus called 911. Everyone.
It's unbelievable.
27 911 calls in a 3-minute period.
That sounds painful.
So I'd like to have you guys back,
Absolutely.
in the future.
And as we said, you're absolutely welcome anytime. Just my cell phone number is
And I
on
would
the bottom
encourage the
page
other
of
selectmen that haven't seen it,
Yes.
guys, to
Anytime.
set something up.
Just
and
give you a call.
my cell phone's there. Give me a call. Come by anytime. Always happy to
It'd
have
be
you.
easier if you guys set up a time and you all go together, you
Yeah.
know, maybe
Day and night,
sometime the rest of the
weekends.
summer, or on a Tuesday that we're off.
Yeah.
You know, if 3 is you're gonna go, then we just post a meeting. But we should also, in fairness, look at Hanson's dispatch as well. So we should hook up with Chief Mixon
Yes.
to get a tour on their facility, so we're apples to apples.
And then if you want to have more meetings for number crunching, things like that, we're happy to make ourselves available.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
Appreciate
you
your
folks.
time.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
All right, next, under new business is item 1 on your iPads, which is vote the Whitman Hanson Regional School amended agreement. Is item 1, if you guys have your iPads going. Did you guys get to review this at all?
This is not changed since we,
No.
No,
okay.
it's procedural at this point, because
Yeah.
at the 11th hour, there was some, 11th hour discussions between the councils for both of the schools, both of the towns and the council for schools. So the decision had been made by the district to forego a vote at those particular town meetings. So it's required to go forward if we're going to put it on the October town meeting warrant, that both boards, Hanson and Whitman, revote the amended regional agreement.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to accept the Whitman Hanson Regional School amended agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor? 5-0, Mike. Okay, next.
I'm sorry, can
Oh,
we just
sure.
mention that as part of that amendment, we have this memo from MARS, the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools, talking about pullout of Hanson versus Whitman. This was some of the discussion that was happening just prior to town meeting that we didn't have closure on and we wanted.
Yes.
And so now that we've got that opinion in writing from them,
Yes.
that's kind of the linchpin. I just thought it was important to mention
Yeah.
that, because,
Okay. So next we have 902 Main Street, Unit 5. A vote a waiver of a right of first refusal. So this looks like it's an affordable housing unit that is looking for us to sign off on the first right of refusal. I don't think the town's gonna be in a position to purchase this. It's my understanding that the woman passed away, and I saw a letter in here from the Housing Authority. I'll read this quickly. Mike, it's an affordable unit that we want to keep affordable. I will work with the estate to have it sold to a qualified buyer. We closed a similar deal earlier this year. Based upon the sales price and the income limitations, it should not be a problem to find a buyer in this open market to purchase the property with an affordable deed rider. I do not think this property that the town could buy or rent, which is right, as a qualified family and have a positive cash flow. That's the long way of saying I would recommend the town elect not to exercise its right to first right to purchase the property. So I'm looking for a motion.
so I move to waive our right of first refusal.
Second.
Thank you.
On
On
this
this
piece-
property
this-
on 902
Main Street, Unit 5 in
Unit
Dunham
5.
Farms.
So the motion's been made and seconded.
I think Wes might have had a question.
Nope, I don't.
No, no.
I'm there.
Okay.
All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, next, set the polling hours for the state primary on September 4th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Hanson Middle School. So I'm looking for a motion to set the polling hours for the state primary for those dates and times. Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, accept donations, which is item 4. I believe there was only one donation in, which, the one donation we have is 6/27/18 Bridgewater Savings Bank for $650 to the police gift account. So I'm looking for a motion to accept this gift.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Who moved it?
Laura moved it and Matt seconded it. All those in favor?
I'm just curious,
Oh.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, why? Where did the 650 come from?
Bridgewater Savings.
Bridgewater
Right, but-
Savings.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, was it requested by the police or anything?
It just
Not
says
to my
that-
knowledge,
just-
they don't solicit such.
Yeah, it just says a donation, so Bridgewater Savings Bank must have had some extra cash lying around and thought that they would donate it to the police gift account.
A lot of times you find financial institutions within their bylaws or their policies, they give back to the communities they serve. So basically, my assumption is this was a vote by their board of directors, and I'm sure that we're not the only police department to be getting such a gift. It's fairly typical.
Okay.
Okay, next, appointments. ZBA regular member, Kevin Perkins, 137 Lakeside Road, term to expire 6/30/21.
I'm sorry, did we actually vote to accept that or just move and second
We
it?
just moved in second.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
good point. We should
Okay.
probably vote, huh?
Yep.
All right, let's vote on accepting the donation. All in favor? 5-0. I think we started to.
That's
We
what
did.
happens,
That's a question.
that's what happens when Mary's not here.
I thought we already did.
Okay, I apologize. So, is Kevin Perkins here? No. Okay. So, but he was here in front of us not
He's
too
the
long ago.
gentleman, yes, and
Yeah.
we appointed him, for a short
Temporary.
period of time. And
Yep.
so I move that we appoint Kevin Perkins to the ZBA as a regular member for a term to expire 6/30/21.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? 5-0, Mike. Okay, is Kathy Gerthart here? Doesn't look like Kathy's here. So, final Plymouth County, Kathy's looking to get on there. Kathy Gerthart, 66 Bonnie Hill Road, term to expire 6/30/2019.
So moved. If I'm not incorrect, I think this is our last open
Yes,
position on there, which
right,
is quite a
yes.
lovely thing. So we'll have a full contingency.
Good. Motion's been made. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, next we have resignations. Matt Tanis as the conservation agent and the Board of Health agent. I'm looking for a motion to accept Matt's resignation with regret.
If I may offer, can we make that contingent upon his final day of work so that we
What's
do-
the final day of work?
I believe it's he has it here. I thought he had it here. It's actually the 30th.
31st. Yeah.
31st
7/31.
of July.
Okay, accept with regret. With the, what'd you say? I'm sorry, say it again, Mike.
Continue.
No, he's saying.
Contingent on the last day of work, which
Actually,
is
his letter says
7/31.
it's effective July 9th.
Yeah, I've spoken with him about it.
Oh, so it's changed to
Yeah.
to be the 31st?
Yes.
Okay.
I had a
Okay.
discussion with him just today about that, so.
Okay.
Make
So-
it contingent,
Yeah, I'm fine
accept
with that.
contingent, so that he can, in the week and a half that he's still going to be here, he can officially act still in his capacity.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just want to make sure with the resignation of Matt, that our staff upstairs is, making sure that our employees here are happy and they're not feeling like they're inundated with all the extra work.
I think that's something Mr. McHugh can look into.
Well, we have been actually, the chairman of the Board of Health was here. I've already started conversations with her and the staff as to how to move forward with all of this.
Okay.
Matt, are you talking about why he's leaving or in his
Well-
absence as he's leaving?
Right, I just want to make sure that we have enough support upstairs, you know what I mean? When you
Yeah.
lose one employee in a
Right.
Yeah, you don't want the
two-person
employees to be
department.
overwhelmed because they're losing their boss.
Right, exactly.
But
So-
what we have done, and to Matt's credit, he has been reaching out and setting up, at least in a temporary sense, individuals that can do perk tests, individuals that can do inspections of restaurants and such. So we do have, for the most part, a temporary plan in place, and the chairman of the Board of Health and I are working forward towards, a permanent solution. But I think we're going to be all right for the short term. We went through this not that long ago,
And what
so
about conservation?
the same thing. I've been talking with the head of the Conservation Board as well as to how we're going to move forward on that. So it's unfortunate, and it's going to be difficult for a little while, but again, we had this situation not that long ago, and we soldiered through, so.
Well, he was an asset, and I'm sorry to see him
Yeah.
go, but I do wish him the best. So I think,
Motion's been made and
Yeah.
seconded, I'm just looking to vote, go ahead.
And then also too, I know that you and I discussed this
We plan on
before,
doing that.
about a exit interview, and that, can we have the results
Yep.
of that?
that's what I thought you were asking, was
Yeah.
can we know why that's happening, so we can address issues if there are issues, yeah.
And, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. And Mike, with these letters, the first one being dated June 18th, in the effective date of July 9th, I'm sure you've started the process of looking for it.
Yes, particularly conservation. He had informed us about his interest in leaving conservation, but again, I had the discussion with him in terms of helping us out until we found a replacement. Now, obviously, he won't be here to help at all. So the process began in terms of conservation, and the conversation that I've been having with the chairman of the Conservation Commission. Unfortunately, now I'm having a conversation with the Board of Health chairman as well, so. And technically, if you want to be technical about this, you're really in a position only to accept his resignation as a conservation agent. He was hired and is responsible to the Board of Health, and the Board of Health is technically accepting his resignation as the health agent.
Yeah, good point. So Matt, Mike and I had that exact conversation about the exit interview on Friday, exact same thing.
And
So,
again, I followed
agree.
up with Matt. He, as I said, he's
Just
going to
kinda
be
wanna
here.
know If there's
up until the
something
middle of
different
next
that we
week,
can
we're gonna
do
talk.
for the next person,
Yeah.
so that's, you're right on point there. Okay, so, all in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, next, resignation for Joe Weeks from the Housing Authority. With regret, I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions?
Well, I do have a question. I noticed that we also have another resignation from Benjamin Fletcher. And what does that leave us on Housing Authority?
It's just
And-
3.
Just 3, okay. That's precarious little position. And what can we do to help them fill that?
That will be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay, all right.
Because there are also some things that the board needs to do in terms of ensuring that the proper election protocol is followed. And again, in a sense, this is really, I don't want to say procedural. These were elected officials.
Right.
So technically, their resignation really goes to the town clerk, basically saying they're no longer going to fulfill the duties of the
We
elected
technically
official.
don't even have to vote to accept it.
Exactly.
because
I would still do it as a
Yeah.
matter of course, however, just to be official, just like with Matt and his position as the health agent. I just want to make that clear, that,
Okay.
So motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, Mike. Okay, same Benjamin Fletcher from the Housing Authority. Accept his resignation with regret.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, next we have a request from the police chief to declare the following vehicles as surplus: a 2013 Ford Utility, a 2012 Dodge Charger, 2010 Ford Explorer, a 2001 Polaris Sportsman 500. I'm looking for a motion to declare these vehicles as surplus,
So moved.
as listed.
Second.
Motions are made and seconded. Any questions?
What are we doing with the 2010 Ford Explorer that's here at Town Hall?
I believe we're going to keep that.
Okay.
The other ones will be turned in, they'll be used as trade-in.
Trade-ins for the new cruiser? Okay.
Got any more questions?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, old business, nothing. Next up is the town administrator's.
Recreation surplus.
Item 11.
Oh,
Had one more
I'm
surplus.
Sorry, I missed that. It's a good thing I got 4 other eyes here.
There you go.
Recreation Commission, declare a stove and a mixer as surplus.
So moved.
Second.
And I had to find out what a mixer was. I thought it was a cement mixer, but I'm told it's a
I like that your
Like
mind went
a
there.
cake mixer. I was just trying to clarify.
An enormous
Right?
industrial
A big
mixer.
of like in the kitchen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That I have hung many costumes on over the past 20 years. Is that something that anybody could buy?
Well, I don't think so. Actually, it's funny, I've been able to further use our facilities manager to make those sorts of, those judgments, and especially the stove, if anything, that's scrap metal, and the mixer apparently is of such disrepair and so old that we may just be getting rid of that, so.
Okay.
Unfortunately, as you said, I think it was more of a coat hanger than anything else for quite some time, so.
Conversation piece.
Yeah.
I think you agreed with the coat hanger too. So I'm looking for a motion to surplus the stove and the mixer.
You got it moved and seconded.
Okay, excellent. All those in favor? 5-0. Mike, thank you, Laura. Okay, now we'll move on to the town administrator's report. Mr. McHugh.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm going to try, as usual, to move through this fairly quickly. I think the most important or interesting thing that I have to mention is I did have a conversation with the town administrator from East Bridgewater this morning, and we are moving forward. We continue to move forward on our efforts to hire a joint IT director. We have a couple of people in mind that we feel very strongly about, and I would hazard to guess that we may be in a position within the next 2 weeks to bring another person forward. It's a concept that neither of us want to give up on. It's a concept that I think all the department heads in both towns agree makes an awful lot of sense, the economies of scale, so on and so forth. So we made sure to try not to miss a beat at all on that. It really, all the hard work was really done between the lawyers and, municipal agreements and things of that nature. Going forward, all we would really be looking to do is change some names and perhaps some numbers and some dates. So the next person that we have, that we feel good about and accepts the position, we should be able to move very quickly on. So I'm glad that has not lost any traction. I wanted to mention to the board, at the last actual meeting, there was a question as to whether or not the person that the board appointed to the disability committee fit one of the criteria. She does.
Great. But we appointed her contingent on the
Yes.
belief that she did,
Yes.
so we're good on that.
Yeah, so I wanted to update the board because
Yeah.
that's the way that we had done it. And interestingly enough, we got another application just today for that board, for another person whose background does fit
Yes.
yet another slot. Oh, yeah.
I know who, yeah. So that will bring us up to 4 of 5 members, which is
Which is,
amazing. Because I
actually-
didn't think we were gonna get that far.
Yes, I agree.
5, right? It's 5
Five,
members?
yep.
Yeah.
Great.
A couple of side notes. I wanted to mention, I was looking at the newsletter that the COA puts out, the Hansonian, and prior to me actually looking at it, we had, and this is going along the line of the public outreach, the veterans agent is going to start putting a bullet in there once a month. Because obviously, there's a better than not chance that that particular population is one that he wishes to reach. However, I'm going to start putting a bullet in there as well, again, in the effort to do the community outreach. In addition to that, I also noted that we do not have a list of the available board and committee openings. So I'm going to endeavor to make sure that's in there every month, because that's obviously a population that we want represented on every one of our boards, and is a population that very well could have the time to donate or to dedicate to these sorts of boards. I know it's very difficult for people with who work, who have children, who have commitments, and perhaps somebody who's retired, who's a senior, will have more time, and maybe we can flesh out some of these boards a bit better. It's as far as I can tell, it's an untapped resource. I wanted to mention, and I'm not sure, I don't necessarily want to turn to the FinCom at this point, but I did want to mention that we have had both candidates both from the Planning Board and from the Board of Assessors to fill out our TIF committee. I will look for the Board of Selectmen to officially appoint those members at the next meeting. I did not want the board to actually go into it this evening because I hadn't heard back yet from the FinCom. They actually met this evening, and I would imagine they'll report out to me later that hopefully somebody has an interest in it. So that committee will be, with the membership of Laura and myself, that committee will be ready to go. As we touched upon at the last meeting, we do have an application in front of us, and I don't think it's going to take too much time to move through it. And
We need to get this on the town warrant, too.
Oh, it's already on it.
Yeah.
I have placeholders for everything, so. Of potential interest, I got an email from MEMA. Apparently, they are abandoning, for whatever reasons, their location in Bridgewater. And it just so happens they're looking for a potential new location for their operation. I figured, why not throw into the mix the old county extension building? So I did get an email back just today from the gentleman with MEMA who's doing that search, who said he's put it on the list and he looks forward to talking to us about the possibility. I think that'd be great, and would be a potential source of revenue in terms of rent. That could be, however we finagle it through town meeting and through legal, to be a source of revenue to help support the park going forward, or whatever we do there.
It does need a bit of spiffing up.
Oh, yeah, it's actually in surprisingly good shape, though.
Yeah, it's not bad, but it's not ready for prime time.
No,
right?
but
Yeah.
the time that I went in there not that long ago, I was surprised that it was not in a worse state of disrepair.
Well,
so.
remember, we replaced the roof and we
And the
replaced the
windows,
windows,
yep.
so it's all secure.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, following on that particular topic, last week I and one of the members of the reuse committee brought a gentleman from Sun Power, a solar company, out to actually view the site, to take a look at the various places where we could envision. Of course, the park remains the chief priority. However, we've also talked as probably a secondary, the second on the list of what we might want to do up there, a solar park. So this gentleman actually came and went and walked the grounds with us. We pointed out more so the member of the reuse committee, who happens also to be the chairman of the Conservation Commission, the opportunities and some of the uniqueness of the site, and we walked away from this gentleman having very positive thoughts about the site, and he's actually going to go as far as to draw up some designs, some back-of-the-napkin sort of designs that the reuse committee can take a look at, and we can make a decision whether that's a fit or not. And again, the potential of a reoccurring source of revenue that could be dedicated to supporting the park. So,
Now, would that be worked into the plan that we're going to be paying to have, or is that?
they will be speaking to each other, yes.
Okay, all right.
Of course, that plan has not taken place yet because we need to get the funding,
Yeah.
but I have reached out to the gentleman that we're interested in using for that particular plan, as well as the gentleman that came out and spoke with us last week or so. So I'm going to make sure that they're in communication and working in whatever degree is appropriate in harmony. We moved forward last week, awarded the bid for the new fire department floor, so that'll be moving forward. Money that was voted at town meeting went through the bidding process, and we've moved forward in putting a contract together for that. The last thing I wanted to mention is I had a meeting, I believe it was either Thursday or Friday last week, with Josh Singer from the Hanson Business Association for the potential of revitalizing Hanson Day. The thought is to, obviously, there's a couple of different options to have it back at the camp, to potentially have it here at the Common, next to Town Hall. It's far in its infancy, but, I have basically committed myself to helping out whatever way possible. It wouldn't happen until next year sometime, so we've got a lot of time to try to get it all worked out. Hopefully, and I wouldn't imagine you wouldn't, hopefully we'd have the support of the Board of Selectmen moving forward. And when things are a little more than just kind of amorphous, we'll bring people in to have a discussion before the board of what it might look like and, to the degree the board can participate, so. And I believe that's all I have this evening, Mr. Chairman.
We're hearing a lot from Whitman, that they're up against a wall, and that they're already signaling that next year is going to be quite rough in terms of school funding. And I'm sure that this is already in the works, but, is Todd working with FinCom? Are we taking a look at our financials as compared to Whitman? I know we don't have the ask from the school district yet, but we can kind of forecast a little bit.
I had a conversation with the new superintendent, with the business agent, and with the facilities manager last week in terms of starting those conversations. So they are going to begin. It's my intention, and certainly he is welcoming it, to bring the new superintendent before the Board of Selectmen. I know we had a quick introduction at some point in the past, but to bring him forward and to start those sorts of conversations at both the high level and then, more in the weeds. We're starting those conversations with Christine and staff over there. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. I have heard those same things about Whitman. I think that our financial situation is, as in the last couple of years, a bit better. But again, that all depends on what the school thinks it needs and how we can work things out. We've been fortunate in the last 2 years to have come to favorable terms with the school. I think that it was a bit of a stretch for Whitman, regardless of the fact that we were in a bit of a better situation. And as I've always said, I want to try to go into whatever negotiations cooperatively with Whitman, so that we don't leave them holding the bag. That we commit to something that would really hurt our neighbor, our sister community. So as I made the commitment back when we were going through towards the end of the budget process last year, I plan on having those conversations as much as possible and as soon as possible. I think we just set, as I said, the meetings last week pretty much set the stage for us to move forward with the schools, again, at my level.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike. Okay, next we have one-day liquor licenses. I'm gonna read all these, we can vote on them as a whole. Luis Martinez, Saturday, August 4th, from 4 to 9, wedding. Jasmine Wade, Sunday, August 5th, 1 to 6, birthday. Jill Benavides, Saturday, August 11th, 5:30 to 10:30, wedding. Justine Lomino, Sunday, August 12th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., that's a shower. Monica Mathis, Saturday, August 18th, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., that's a wedding. Amy Stifferin, Saturday, August 25th, 3:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., wedding. Fred Kern, Sunday, August 26th, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., company outing. Allison Frazier, Pembroke, Friday, August 31st, 5:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., that's a wedding. Looking for a motion
So
to
moved.
accept these liquor licenses. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. 5-0, Mike. Committee reports. 200th Anniversary Committee, Laura.
I gave you guys a pretty robust update the last meeting, and we're not meeting until the 26th, this Thursday, at which time I should expect to have more to tell you. That's all I've got on that.
Thank you. Final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee, Matt.
We'll be meeting tomorrow, and the town administrator's report was a good insight of what's to come.
Excellent, thank you. McCollum School Reuse Committee.
We're still gathering facts. Mike, we should probably get together and figure out where we are on that, just a status, because I know we've got the 3 various things that we've got going on.
We can put
But
something together for next week.
Nothing, earth-shattering to report.
Okay, the Hanson School Repair Committee, Mr. Hickey.
Mr. Chairman, we had trouble getting a quorum, so we've pushed the meeting back.
Okay.
I'll have to let you know at the next meeting.
Okay.
We'll get it done.
And the Highway Building Committee, we met, well, I updated you last week, we haven't met yet, so we're gonna be meeting in a couple of weeks, so we haven't posted a meeting yet. The last meeting, we accepted the engineer contract from Weston and Sampson. So, I guess that's it. Does anybody else have any comments or anything? If not, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? 5-0. Good night.